I'm Luca Giliberti, contributing writer at Gold Derby, and I am joined today by the one and the only Chase W. Dillon, who stars as Homer on Barry Jenkins' 10-episode limited series, The Underground Railroad. So, Chase, I know that you auditioned for this role. What was your first reaction when you read the audition script? And what did you first think of the character of Homer?
Well, when I first got the script, it was like any other script, like any other audition. And, I was just reading it over. And when I first read it over, I was like, man, this is some stuff right here. I was like, this is some stuff. And I was like, I want to do it. And I turned to my mom. I was like, Ma, I could bring this. This is mine. I'm telling you right now, this is mine. And this is powerful stuff. So just reading the role of Homer was like a very powerful experience for me. And even just reading it. And I just read the script over and over and over. And I read Colson Whitehead's book. I read half of it. And just making myself learn about Homer and learning about Homer, he's a mischievous, very intelligent, and he's amazing.
Oh, he,
And so yeah.
oh, he absolutely is. And is it true that once you got the audition script, that you learned it within 24 hours? Is that correct?
Yes, less than 24 hours.
That's incredible. And would you say that you and Homer, did you click right away, or did it take a while for you to understand who he really was?
Oh yeah, me and Homer, when I read the script, it's like we just clicked because, me, I'm a very spiritual person,
Mhm.
and Homer was preaching in that script. Homer was preaching. I was like, oh shoot. I was like, oh, this is mine.
Well, that's so interesting, and you already mentioned that you read half of Colson Whitehead's novel, which the series is based on, of course, with your mother, and I also know that you did a lot of research with her when preparing for this project. What did you learn about Homer, or just the story in general, while preparing for this project?
Well, I learned a lot about the Underground Railroad. And what I learned about Homer is, again, like he's a very mischievous, observant, and, hard character. Like he's tough. And so that's what I really learned about him. And so I just brought a few things into Homer, and me from myself, I just like I just little that in Homer. And so yeah, I learned a lot from Homer, and just reading the book and also reading the script gave me a lot of knowledge about Homer. And I do have to say one thing. In Georgia, when we were filming, we had an Airbnb house.
Really? Wow.
And so I was like, wow, this is a nice house. And it was the first ever mansion built in Covington, Georgia. And so we were like just checking it out when we first moved in. And there was like these two doors outside. So I was like, what's these two doors doing out here? So we went in one of them, it was just storage. And then we went in the other one, and it was just a room, an empty room. I was like, what is this? And I did more research about the mansion because I want to do it. I
Yeah.
want to do a lot of research. And so after my research, I found out that the Underground Railroad was under the house. So I was like, in that door was where the slaves hid
Hmm.
and passed through. And I was like, oh my God. And so that was like really educational for me because I was standing on history.
Wow. That is so interesting, Chase. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think one of the most interesting aspects of Homer is that we, as the viewers, don't really get to hear him speak that much throughout the entire show. How is it for you playing a character who doesn't necessarily have a lot of lines of dialogue and has to say so much with just his face. How was it playing that for you?
Well, Homer's a very smart character.
Mhm.
So just his body language in the show really spoke for him. It opened his mouth for him, just his body language. And it wasn't hard at all
Oh,
because, you know, I just added a little body language into it, and I was just like Homer. And I was just like, what would Homer do? You know,
mhm.
what would Homer do here? What would Homer do there? And I just did it, and the body language that I did, and that's, I gotta say for myself, that was nice. I didn't think it was gonna come out like that.
Wow. Well,
Uh, but yeah, so just the body language speaks for the character.
and you really did such an incredible job. I think he's just one of the most interesting characters on this show. And every time he looked into the camera or you looked into the camera, there was so much to sort of look at and to think about. So you did such a great job there. And Homer is a former slave who was set free by Ridgway, played by Joel Edgerton. But he ultimately stays by Ridgway's side at all times. Why do you think he remains so loyal to Ridgway?
Well, as a white man and as a black little kid, he wanted to stay with Ridgway because he was scared and he didn't want to get put back into slavery. And if he ever went up north or even tried to go up north, he would either get killed or put back in slavery, and he didn't want that. So as a white man freeing him, he wanted to stay with him because, you know, he could go around anywhere he wanted. And Homer was like, if I stay with this guy, then I can live my life. And so, being Homer being with Ridgway was like he wanted to stay with him because he didn't want any of that stuff to happen. And Homer really thinks that Ridgway and him is like a father-son bond as well.
And speaking of that father-son bond, you share most, if not all, your scenes with Joel Edgerton, who I already mentioned, and you share quite a few with Tusu Mbedu, who plays Cora as well. How was it working with these two actors in particular?
Oh, it was amazing. Me, Joel, and Tuso, we were like we were literally a group of best friends just playing on the park, playing in the park. And it's funny because when we always went on set, me and Tuso would be talking with each other, hugging with each other, and laughing with each other. And Barry would come out and be like, "Hey, hey, hey, y'all ain't supposed to be hugging or laughing. Y'all supposed to hate each other." um, so yeah, that was funny as well. But me, Joel, and Tuso, we all found a way, even though you know, we all found a way we did house parties, we did bowling alleys, we did all kinds of parties, and not just for me, Joel, and Tuso. We did a lot of outings together, but not only for me, Joel, and Tuso, but for the whole cast and crew. So all the cast and crew came over to our house, and we just had potlucks, karaoke night, movie nights. It was amazing. So we just had parties here and there and at the bowling alley at our house.
So you really did become a family, which is so wonderful.
And I
And
see I see Joel as my big brother and Tuso as my big sister.
oh, that's so nice. That's so nice. I think it's so interesting, and then especially on the show, of course, you play these roles are so different, and the dynamic between all three of you is so different. So that's so fascinating. And you already mentioned Barry, who of course directed all 10 episodes of this show. How was it for you having him guide you throughout this entire experience?
Well, he's amazing. He is an amazing director, and especially like amazing to his cast and his crew. He really cares for his cast and his crew, and if they're uncomfortable, he will make them comfortable. And that's what I love. And so he really helped me and my parents. I remember when I first got the underground, well, when I first got the Underground Railroad, he sent us a full script of the whole entire miniseries
Hmm.
to my parents so they could read it over, to parts of it, to see if um they wanted me to participate in this mini series. So I really thank him for that. And so he sent the script over, they did the okay and everything. And I just really love how he did that, because like he cares for his people. He cares for his cast and his crew and everybody there. And so, and when I'm on set, he was very nice with me, and telling me the game plan, telling me what's going on, and having little talks with me, taking a knee and stuff like that. And so it was just amazing working with him, and he is such a great director. And he let people fly. He let
Hmm.
people just go. He let people go. He let people go their own way. And if that did not suit the scene, he would shift it a little bit, but let them. And he let us ad lib a lot. He let us put
Oh,
our own words in there. And
okay.
so, and he let us do a lot of improvs in the show. And some of the scenes in the show are improv. Some of that was not scripted, and we did some of that on our own. So he just let us just go with the flow, and then if it did not suit the scene too much, he would just shift it but still let us go. And it was amazing.
Wow, that's so interesting because I've spoken to so many of your castmates, and this is the first time I hear that you were able to improvise a bit. So thank you so much for sharing that. And on a final note, Chase, I am curious as to what you feel like you learned from the entire experience that was the Underground Railroad, either just from the story itself, from working with some of your castmates, or working with Barry. What did you learn as an actor, maybe, or as just a human being?
Well, working with all these great actors, I learned a whole lot. And I'm just a beginner. I've been active for 3 years. I'm a beginner. So I just learned a lot of stuff from all these actors, and Barry has really inspired me to be a director and a writer and a producer. And so I really want to do that. He really inspired me in a lot of different ways. And so I think the thing that I've learned from this is, you know, I learned a lot from the Underground Railroad, not only academically or, from the book. I learned a lot being on set and watching what was going on. And seeing, not only is Homer an observant person, I'm an observant person. So I scope out everything. So I just learned a lot from all the actors on set. And, it was great. And I just learned, like, never give up.
Yeah. And
Never give
you
up on anything.
absolutely. And I know you say you're just a beginner, but honestly, that does not show in the work. It was such a great performance and such an interesting character. And thank you so much for talking to us about the show and your character today. You did such a great job. And to our viewers, make sure to check out the Underground Railroad on Amazon Prime Video if you haven't already. And before you go, make sure to click subscribe. And thank you so much.
Thank you.